I first worked here at the Chevrolet store in 1947 in the parts department. Of course, I went to college, was in the Navy, went to law school. In 1962, they made me general manager.
Greg is almost, it's interesting because he really is almost iconic within the company because he's been here so long and there's people that have worked for him. You know, my parts manager has worked here since 1962. So they've worked for him a long time. And they remember these sort of legendary, you know, it's not like, say, Paul Bunyan-esque, but there's these stories about the computer stuff.
When I started with the company, it was in the early days of computers. And Sutliff Chevrolet had a new computer, and Greg was the programmer.
And IBM came and consulted with him locally about how they could improve a dealer operating. You know, the use of the term dealer operating system obviously didn't exist, but how they could make a dealer operating system out of the code that he was writing to help him do his business. And I don't think he thought of it as changing the industry. I think he thought of it as, I'm a small business person, this is a tool that I can use for my small business.
And they were on that machine up until, I don't know, I want to say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, something like that.
Early 70s, we were getting into significant inflation. I said, could LIFO be used in the automobile business? I figured out a way to do it.
I know he came across the idea and he championed it, and he helped to bring other dealers into it, and it's standard practice now in the car dealership, and he was one of the first to use it.
He looked at it and said, well, if they can do it, doesn't that make sense for us?
One of the Boyer and Ritter partners, I guess, heard that we were doing that, and they came over and asked me to do it for some of their dealer clients.
He certainly instilled integrity and honesty in the industry. When GM was creating Saturn, Greg was one of the first ones they came to talk to about what kind of practices a dealership should follow because of the practices he already had in place at the Chevrolet store.
They offered me a position on this 11-person panel. There were 2 Chevrolet dealers, one from St. Louis and me. And we created the Saturn brand with the UAW and with the GM executives.
And I think he takes great pride in rightly held belief that a lot of the things that Saturn did about we're going to improve trust, we're not going to negotiate pricing, we're going to change the way that people perceive car selling, was based on what he had been doing at Sutliff Chevrolet for years.
Even though Saturn was really only around a short time in the whole history of the automotive industry in the United States, it made a big impact in the way everyone else does business. Before Saturn, it was rare to see dealers washing cars. It was rare to see such a focus on the customer.
Then he ended up being the first signed dealer, not the first dealership that was actually open, but he was the first one to sign the contract to do it.
You know, he was on the NADA board and he was on the PA. He's been very involved with PAA over the years because the industry matters to him. He wants us to be well perceived.
It probably doesn't surprise people that really know Greg to know that he is a very generous person, and he does a lot of things that people don't even know about, and he prefers to kind of remain anonymous a lot of time.
When you look at the local United Way of what the Sutliff Auto Group does, there's just no one close to us. And I say that with a level of pride, not picking on the other people, just to say it is because of a fundamental belief of Greg's, that is, when you are doing well, you owe it to the community that's helping you do well to give back to that community.
I know he's been involved in some bigger things that he has grudgingly accepted the fact that they're going to put his name on it somewhere.
Greg's name is known. He's a heavy hitter at Camp Hill High School. The auditorium is named after him. Greg is also very proud to be a Camp Hill lifelong resident of Camp Hill Borough. He grew up there, he went to high school there, and so he's made significant contributions to the Lion Foundation. And he's also a graduate of what is now the Penn State Dickinson School of Law, and there's also an auditorium named at the in the building in State College. There's a Sutliff Auditorium.
From my own point of view, you know, he's been terrific for me. I mean, I was a 17-year-old kid washing cars, and I'm still here and doing other things, and you know, not everybody would have given a kid like that a chance to come up through the ranks like I did.
It's nice to work for somebody that you respect.